Growing Up White. It's Weird. Book 1, Chapter 2, Hawaii. 1968. I am 8 years old, and I am in the island paradise of Hawaii. Now, to be exact, Honolulu, Hawaii, on the island of Oahu. We live just moments away from the famous Waikiki beach, and we lived on the side of Diamond Head Crater. Yes, that iconic Diamond Head Crater. Anytime you see pictures of the area, you can see Diamond Head Crater looking out majestically over the Pacific Blue Ocean. The housing we lived in was provided by the military. They built houses for soldiers and their families so they could all be close to the base or on the base. Our base was called Fort Ruger. Now, it wasn't a typical military base. What it was is just a lot of houses all in a row that were connected together. My father, he worked downtown Honolulu at the intake center. Our unit was connected to about 20 other units. However, besides the front yards that we all had, we also had a corner yard that was framed by banana trees, and then on the corner ended in a very large shady tree. The rear of all these units had a small road you could drive back and forth on, and then there was the steep slope of Diamond Head Crater. The front of all the units faced Diamond Head Road, and next to our corner was the road that led up into Diamond Head Crater. And since the crater was basically our back play yard, we would get together with other kids who were also army brats like I was, and we would do things like have slingshot fights. Yeah, white kids, we had slingshot fights. You could get a slingshot for about 10 cents. It was shaped like a football goalpost, and you would hold it in your hand, and then you would have rubber bands on each tip. You would pull it back, put a little clay pellet in it, and shoot the other kid. Now, no one ever got seriously injured or lost an eye. It was just something we did while playing on the slopes of Diamond Head Crater. We'd also hike, walk around the crater as far as you could, and go into some of the old bunkers built by the Army during the last war. Another fun thing we would do is skateboarding. We would walk up the road that led into the crater and skateboard all the way down to our house. It was maybe about a 20-minute ride. And of course, being in Hawaii, living in Honolulu, right up the road from world famous Waikiki Beach, I learned how to surf, and I bought my own surfboard. As you might remember from Chapter 1, I had been working since I was 12 years old. Now, I was only 8, but my mother would often bring me to work with her to make a little money. And the surfboard that I did buy was nothing spectacular. It was used. The fin or skeg had been broken and they patched it with fiberglass. It was about 7 feet tall, blue with a yellow top inlay. And I was about maybe, 3.5, 4 feet tall. So it was plenty big for me. And I had paid a grand total of $40 for my first and only surfboard. I put the surfboard to good use. Just about every day after school, I'd head on down to Waikiki Beach and surf for an hour or so. My mother would come down, wave a towel on the beach, and tell me it was time to go home. Now, one of the cool things about the area in Waikiki Beach where I surfed was a 100-foot concrete pier that jetted out into the water. And what you would do is you'd walk to the end of the pier, you'd throw your surfboard in the water, wait for a wave, and then jump the 20 feet into the wave so you didn't hit the bottom. So I learned to do this watching older surfers. Then I remember my older brother trying it. It didn't go so well. He had a cheap styrofoam surfboard. And what he did was he jumped off the end of the pier holding onto a surfboard, and in midair I watched as the styrofoam surfboard broke in two around him and he landed in the water with a broken surfboard. Now, it was kind of funny, but the good news is he didn't get hurt. Speaking of my older brother, I remember him taking me to an R-rated movie. Now, I was about 8 or 9, so he's about 11 or 12, maybe 13. And the fact that these two children could get into an R-rated movie in Hawaii tells you something about the time. The name of the two movies were Blood Fiend, which I really don't remember much about, just there was a lot of blood. And the second one, which I remember more, was Brides of Blood. The movie centered on a older, rich white guy who owned an island, and now this is a spoiler alert, on special nights, he would turn into a beast. And the natives would sacrifice to the beast one of their women, preferably a virgin. And they would be tied to two bamboo poles shaped like an X. Their arms were tied up in the air, spread apart, and their legs were tied, spread apart. And they wore bikinis. Sometimes the native men would rip the bikinis off them before the beast came out. And then when the beast came out, there was a lot of screaming as he devoured the front of their body. And yes, they would show the whole bloody body. That was my first exposure to seeing a naked woman's body. Now remember, the movie came out in 1968, so I was just 8 years old watching this. Another activity we would do as Army brats is shoot rifles inside Diamond Head Crater at their rifle range where I was being trained to be a good little soldier. The way I learned to shoot, because of my size and age, the rifle itself was just as big as I was lying down. And the targets were about 50 feet in front of me. And I made it all the way up to pro marksman with medals and a certificate. And if I stayed with the program and got a little bigger, I would next learn how to shoot kneeling and then standing, like some of the older kids. Now, my elementary school, I was actually in the minority as a white kid. Most of the kids there were Asian or native islanders, but I got along with everyone. I played kickball, I was good at school, and one of the coolest things was I wore shorts every day and I didn't have to wear shoes. I mean, look, it's Hawaii. And on my way walking to and from school, I passed by a cemetery. Now, it wasn't your typical cemetery. It looked more like a park. So often I would walk around. And one of the fascinating things is people would leave food on the graves for the souls to come up and eat. I mean, it made sense. They were probably hungry. So I asked my mother if I could leave some food on a grave. And she said she knew someone she worked with who had a relative at the cemetery named Charlie. So I would leave Charlie some food. Okay, so I know this sounds a little weird, but let's get even more weird. In the housing unit we lived in, 2 bedroom, 1 bath, I slept in a bedroom with my older brother. We had separate beds across from each other, and my mother and father and younger brother slept in the other bedroom. Now, my mother would leave a light on in her room at night in case we got up and needed to go to the bathroom, or there was a centipede crawling around the floor, we could see it, to which my mother would run in with a towel and a shoe and smash it. So I'm sleeping this one night, and all of a sudden, I feel a body sit on the edge of the bed and lean on me. Remember, I had seen Brides of Blood and Blood Fiend, and those images are in my mind. So I'm scared. I don't know what to do. So I stay still and pretend I'm asleep. Then what I do is I open one eye very slowly, and what I see is a brown thumb in front of my face. Now remember, I'm white, my mother and father are white, the light is on in the bedroom, and there is clearly a brown thumb in front of my face. Then, a moment later, the body gets up, and I think, oh no, it's going to get my older brother. I wait a moment, open both eyes, slowly get up, and I don't see a soul. Remember, the light is on, and my older brother is still in his bed fast asleep. Now you would think this little kid would scream out or run to his mother and father. No, I just went back to sleep. And I never told anyone for at least 10 years after that. And when I finally did tell my mother, she said it could have been Charlie. And with that, we will end Chapter 2. Growing Up White, it's weird.